and welcome to another video where I have a look at the things coming in Europa Universalis 5, the game that we're all incredibly hyped about. Now, I know that I'm a little bit late with this video, which is going to be all about some of the late-game disasters in EU5, but that's because I've been working on my the Wales AAR. The third video in that just came out yesterday, and I've been working a little bit on the fourth video. Right now, I'm 1,200 words in, so yeah, we're getting there. We're getting through it. But anyway, today obviously we're going to be talking about the disasters, and we get some beautiful, beautiful art to go with it. I believe this is the Court and Country disaster art, and it's just so nice, so nice. But yeah, if you are interested in EU5 and you are not yet having pre-purchased the game, then you can do so via the link both in the description and in the pinned comment, if I remember to pin it there, where you can get a Steam key from the Paradox store. I get a little bit of a cut of the sale, you help out the channel, you get to play the game on day one, and we're all going home happy. But anyway, with that out of the way and out of all the dues are done, let us get in to Tinto Talks number 82, which is the disasters. We have 3 generic disasters here: the decline of the Empire, Court and Country, and Aspiration for Liberty. And as I put here, the fact that Aspiration for Liberty is framed as a disaster really says a lot about the political views of the devs. Pavia wondering if they will be free after the 4th of November. Maybe Yuan will lie, maybe he will not, who knows. But anyway, let us start with the decline of the Empire. It's a generic disaster that portrays the difficulties of ruling large empires in pre-modern eras. We were inspired by cases close to our starting date, such as the decline of the Khmer Empire. Also, I have no idea how you properly pronounce this. Khmer? Someone tell me in the comments how to do it. I don't know. Anyway, in the 14th century, the Empire of Mali in the 15th century, and other such cases. Many such cases, in fact. This disaster can trigger for countries of empire rank that have fallen below 0 stability and whose ruler or regent commands fewer than 150 total ability points. I'd say this is, like, pretty doable, right? Obviously, you have 3 stats, so if you are lower than 50-50-50, you will have problems. Having a ruler of 50-50-50 is not uncommon, even if you get a ruler who you start, giving them the better education from the age of 3 years old when it's available at the start. When they become 16 and become an adult, having their stats around the 50 to 60 range, maybe you get lucky and you get one of the traits that increases, like, rowdiness will increase their military stat, and you'll have that a bit higher. It's not impossible to have 150. It seems like about the average. So basically, it's saying, do you have a ruler that is below average? Because obviously, I feel like there is a bit of a bell curve when it comes to ruler stats. You're very, very rarely going to see, like, the 95, 95, 95. And you're very rarely going to see somebody as stupid as the heir of the Roman Empire, who Ionis Kantakouzenos, and his stats are just absolutely dreadful. But having people around the 150 mark, very, very common. In addition, it requires the state either exerts less than a certain level of average control in its home region, varying by age from 40% in the Age of Traditions to 60% in the Age of Revolutions, or that the proportion of primary and accepted culture pops within the realm has dropped too low. So, to basically say how much this is, the average control in the home region, if you're, say, playing as England, your home region would be the entirety of the island of Britain. I believe, yeah, just the island of Britain, not Ireland. And having your average control lower than 40 there, lower than 60 there, very, very doable. Super, super doable. To the point where I feel like this might be a little bit too punishing. There is, let me see, this one here, this is just skipping ahead to one of the comments, but here's a couple of the regions. So Balkans goes all the way from, like, Venice to Constantinople. Anatolia is, I feel like these are basically the same region maps as we had in EU4, which is fine. And then for India, Hindustan, West India, Bengal, and Deccan is just colossal, with a lot of jungle in here as well. Having an average of 40 control in this entire region is going to be actually really quite painful and quite difficult. But if you are, say, in Constantinople with your capital, if you're playing as, say, the Ottomans, or if you're playing as the Romans, and you've conquered much of the Balkan area, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility for your average control to be relatively low. Getting control even to Athens until you get your maritime presence set up, the control here is going to be really quite low, and having a road that goes from Constantinople to Athens, it's just not going to be enough. It's still probably going to go through the water anyway, and if you don't have the maritime presence, you're just not going to have any good times. But there is a comment here by Thuy saying, only 50% average control in the region, the capital, not the whole empire. How much of a threat would the disaster really be towards the late game when historically places like the Ottomans, I'm ignoring the Mughals for now, but the Ottomans have their empires decline? And he's got a point that I don't think Pavia really addresses. If the Ottomans own all of Anatolia and then just a smidgen of the Balkans, say they've gone up to like Thessaloniki, they've got Constantinople, they've gone all the way up to the Danube, and say that this is kind of what they're going with, having control spread to Thessalonica and all the way up to the north here in the Danube is going to be super easy for Constantinople. So all of Anatolia could be absolutely destitute, low control, absolute garbage wasteland, and then as long as you just have this part, then you're not going to be in any issues whatsoever. And he says, yeah, it would be somewhat easy to cheese that have to happen to have their capital on the edge of a region where they own very few provinces. And I think that's an entirely fair point. As the Ottomans or as the Romans, like this interior land here, you're probably going to want to give to vassals anyway. Coastline is just so powerful in this game. So I feel like this might be a little bit easy to avoid in certain areas. Obviously not all areas, but certain areas are going to be really, quite happy with this situation. But anyway, moving on to the decline of the Khmer Empire. As the Khmer Empire stretches thin, cracks begin to show. The court is paralyzed under weak leadership. Its halls filled with corruption and indecision. Distant provinces, even in Indochina, chafe under neglect, while discontent spreads through the heartlands. Whispers of rebellion echo in the street, and the once mighty bureaucracy under Emperor Tresak Phenem Angche struggles to maintain control. The empire teeters on the brink. The people grow restless. Famine and economic decline fuel their anger, and ambitious rivals see weakness. If order is not restored, collapse is inevitable. Very cool. Love the flavor text in this game, by the way. It's real nice. So when you enter this disaster, you lose some stability, which makes your problem worse, I would imagine. Provinces with discriminated culture pops or low control may seek independence. Makes sense. Meanwhile, foreign rivals may exploit our weakness to expand their borders. Very cool. There is a comment as well I will try and find here that Burchinajaro has stated, would it be possible to add an automatic CB if an empire is in decline and they have a culture in your culture group that can be freed? It is a nice suggestion. I really like the suggestion as well. So there we go. Boom. Hearts. Would be really, really cool to see that, for sure. Because, I mean, it kind of says here, foreign rivals may exploit our weakness. We'll give them a CB then. Why not? CBs are a little bit harder to come by in this this era of Europa Universalis. We also have the consolidated corruption of the elites. Oh boy, this is what the Romans start with. This is, I didn't even realize that this is what the situation was. This is essentially, or not essentially, this is exactly the problem with playing as the Romans. You get this consolidated corruption of the elites, minus 20 max tax and minus 20 morale. Getting rid of this as the Romans is actually so difficult to do in a way that isn't going to make your country explode, because removing privileges is huge costs to stability, and you need over 90 or 95, I can't remember the number, legitimacy to even click the button to lose the stability. When I played my Roman run, I ended up getting rid of this in the 1400s, which is like way later than maybe it should have been done, and the stability cost was still in the 70s, and I'd really tried to hamper down on how much power the nobles even had, and yeah, it's so painful. While active, there will be penalties on estate satisfaction equilibrium, bank interest, and monthly rebel growth. That makes sense. You need to be higher than 0 stability to get this ended, and have at least one of these. Control greater to 50% average in the region. I really like seeing this, and it's the same situation in EU4 where I want to see the average autonomy of my provinces, and the only real way to do that is to go into your gov reforms and hover over a little progress bar there. I kind of want to be able to see what my average control is at all times. I really hope that they add somewhere that I can hover over a thing, get a tooltip, and tell me what my average control is, even when I'm not in Decline of Empire. I want it to just be there, possible to see at all times. That would be super, super nice. And then primary culture and accepted culture percentage in our country is more than 50%. Also, good stuff. To recover from the disaster, you need to recover to positive stability, improve control up to 50% in the home region, or have more than 50% of primary and accepted cultures in your entire country. Makes sense. Some flavor events may also trigger, besides the main mechanical effect of disaster, dealing with dissatisfied estates and growing rebels. In the wake of the turmoil, the Cham people have begun to voice their demands for greater autonomy. The unrest that has swept through the empires fueled their desire for more control over their own affairs, and they now call for reforms that would grant them a greater independence from our central rule. Denying their request could prove dangerous. Resentment is rising, and the seeds of rebellion are being sown. Should we ignore their plea, we risk alienating a portion of our population and sparking yet more unrest across the Empire. Alternatively, offering concessions may ease tensions and maintain stability, but it may come at the cost of weakening our control. Hopefully, one day it will end. You gain some stability back. Every pot for primary and accepted gains 10 satisfaction. I think at this point what you do is you pause the game, you go into your cultures screen, and you accept a bunch of really small cultures. Click this button, and then unaccept them. Actually, I feel like they lose more than 10 satisfaction for that, so maybe never mind. But yeah, ending it as fires of crisis fade, the Khmer Empire begins to rebuild. Order has been restored, and the fractures that once threatened to tear the Empire apart have been mended. Whether through strengthening control or embracing cultural unity, the chaos that had gripped our people has been subdued. The whispers of rebellion grow silent once restless provinces return to the fold and the court reasserts its authority. Though scars remain, the worst has passed. We have successfully weathered the storm and emerged, if not unscathed, then at least unbroken. Very nice. Court and country. This was I think, probably the only disaster in EU4 that you wanted to have fire because it was so good. The benefits for finishing it were amazing. Getting the extra absolutism cap was really something you wanted to do. So I've not actually played through it in EU5 yet. I know some other creators have, and they'd probably have a much better idea of what goes on here. I'm sure I'll get to it in time. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, it is one of our old friends from EU4, which has been reworked and revamped for EU5. It may trigger after the Age of Absolutism in countries whose crown estate power is more than 25%, which is like the bare minimum, by the way. This is the bare minimum that I find acceptable in a campaign, because under 25% you start getting horrible malices to things like your tax efficiency, to your trade efficiency. It's just not good. Over 25 is, like, 25 is my minimum comfort zone. Higher than 25, fantastic. In my Wales campaign that I've been doing the AR in, as of 1600, I'm at, I think, 45 crown power. And, you know, I'm comfy. I like it. Or whose societal value is absolutism versus liberal at least 50 towards absolutism. Fair enough. The encroachment of the English. Fair enough. State on domains that have traditionally been dominated by regional aristocrats, local courts, or other interest groups has led to widespread resentment of the king and the London court. These groups have now united and formed alliances to combat central authority. Today, we've received a number of objections to our latest tax decree, citing ancient rights and immoral conduct by the representatives of these upstrats. Upstrats? The upstrats! No! Not the upstrats, it needs the downstrats. No, upstarts. Just a spelling error there. It's clear that continued attempts to strengthen our power will be obstructed at every opportunity. So if you make them bend the knee, you lose 50 satisfaction in all of your estates and 50 stability, which, on the face of it, seems awful. If you attempt to negotiate with them instead, you gain 10 satisfaction but lose 25 legitimacy. So, Corn Country contains many new events which affect the societal value position of absolutism versus liberalism. While it's active, the estates of your country will be less satisfied and the pops will also be more likely to join the rebels. Minus 25 equilibrium, which is very, very painful. Basically means that you need to either reduce tax to increase the satisfaction or just accept that you're going to have a lot of rebellions, I think. So to get rid of it, the crown power needs to be greater than 35. Less than 5 total privileges. That's crazy. I give 5 to just the burghers. That's wild. Have less than 80 absolutism versus liberalism, or you can finish it in another way. Have 65 satisfaction on all of your estates. Yeah, also it needs to be going for 10 years. Fair enough. The two ways of finishing the disaster, either by embracing absolutism or liberalism. In the first case, the revolution may hit your country much harder when it appears, while in the latter you'll be giving up crown power to your states. There's no clean solution, and it depends on which type of country you want to play with during the age of absolutism and revolutions. Look, I feel like as long as the liberalism path gives you some decent, bonuses, make it so that it's not, I have to go absolutism because it's obviously just the best, admin efficiency, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, admin efficiency in EU5 is nothing like it is in EU4, so it's just completely irrelevant. But getting rid of privileges, especially the noble privileges, which tend to be pretty crap, seems like a really, really good idea. But I think maybe what I would want to do is use it to get rid of privileges from the nobles and everyone else that I don't like, and then get them above the satisfaction, and then try and kind of split the difference and go liberalism finisher, but also low privileges, maybe? I don't know. It depends, because I don't know what the bonuses for these are. Hopefully they say at some point. Note the 35 crown power needed is calculated at the beginning of the disaster, setting a realistic and dynamic goal that's tailored uniquely and fairly for each country's situation. Okay, so if you have higher, then you'd need higher, maybe? Something like that? As you've seen, there are different actions that play with both the mechanics for the Age of Absolutism and also with the estates. So your actions legitimize the legislative abolition, reinstate the legislative assembly, reign in the elites, reign in the wealthy, reign in the religious, and reign in the commoners. And of course, random flavor events that trigger while the disaster is active, such as the power of the lords, where you can revoke privileges. Okay, this is... I've heard a lot of it being a case of, this has started fire, therefore it's easier to revoke privileges. This might be how that happens. I think when you click this, you get to either choose, or it will automatically choose for you one of the noble privileges that you can then just get rid of, which is awesome. Very cool. Now we have the Aspiration for Liberty, another old friend from EU4. Now in EU5, it may trigger if being in the Age of Revolutions, while the stability is lower than 20, and having an average country literacy of 60, either by having no parliament, autocratic parliament, or the absolute rule policy. It'll make your country more receptive to revolution as well. The questionable rule of King Edward, the population's yearning for liberty and the desire for the enactment of enlightened ideals, has spurred a revolution that seems all but unavoidable. The people have united and taken up arms in an attempt to topple the kingdom, thereby initiating one of the bloodiest revolutions of our time. Dire times are ahead of us, we lose some stability. Naturally, pops belonging to the burghers and the yeomanry, so obviously burghers and the commoners' estates, will lose pop satisfaction depending on their literacy. I feel like the burghers are going to get real unhappy because they would be the ones with high literacy. The commoners, maybe less so. It'll also impact estate satisfaction equilibrium or the stability investment cost. I believe it's and. This is an and. It's both of them. So to end it, you need to reinstate the legislative assemblies or have greater than 90 stability, currently minus 40. I guess that's because he's fired a bunch of these events. This is probably 1337, obviously, with King Edward III. So he's just fired a bunch of the events, and I feel like he's done it on the same game. So this is a campaign that has also had the Court and Country disaster fire. So now he's in minus 40, so that's 3 lots of minus 20 because he started 20. I feel like that's what's happened there. It will only end if the legislative assemblies are reinstated, and I feel like this is an or. It's an or. I feel like this should be an or. Anyway, or having more than 90 stability. Yeah, it's at least one of these. Okay. And we have a lovely UI for it as well. This is something I haven't actually seen yet, so... And we have the crown power here, so nobles here would have about 55% crown power at the start of an England game, so that makes sense there. What I wouldn't mind is if on this panel, it would show like a number here. So instead of the crown power symbol, it would have what the number is for the power. And it's not crown power. This one only is crown power. This is noble power. But you know what I mean? It's power. That might be something. How would you fit the number of the power and also the symbol of the power in the same little circle? I don't know, but it would be nice instead of having to hover over it and get a tooltip for it. That might be nice. I don't know. I don't know how you would put that through there, though. Note the stability required to complete the disaster is heavily dependent on your country's average literacy. Higher literacy equals harder to quell the demands of the people. Very cool. So, if you want to reinstate the Legislative Assembly, you get 20 satisfaction on all your estates. You set the Parliament type to Assembly. You gain reinstated the Legislative Assemblies and ends the Aspiration for Liberty. To do that, you need to have either the Autocratic Parliament, have the Absolute Rule, or Supreme Authority. Very nice. A couple of events that may trigger while the disaster is active. Battles on foreign grounds. Our prospects for financial success have been exceptionally bleak over the last few years. The relentless investments of King Edward in costly wars on foreign soil have drained the nation's coffers, leaving little to support the essential domestic needs. Combined with rampant governmental mismanagement, financial neglect, and escalating political instability, these actions have ravaged the economy, eroding public trust in the ruling powers. We now teeter on the edge of bankruptcy, with rising unrest among the citizens who increasingly question the priorities of King Edward. The situation grows dire as debts pile up, and the state struggles to maintain even basic functions amid the looming fiscal collapse. I do find it funny that this is something that will fire in the age of, not absolutism, the age of revolutions. Sorry, forgot the name of it. But this text could absolutely play in 1337, or a little after 1337, with, I don't know what that noise was, a little after 1337, with the 100 Years' War. So, yeah, kind of cool that that's a thing there. We also have government incompetence as well. Look, we're playing as England, that's kind of a given, is it not? But anyway, that is it for this video, or no, this dev diary. There is another situation coming next Wednesday, the Revolution, and a disaster that may trigger under it, the revolutionary chaos. But there is a new dev diary for military and war that came out. Again, I'm not really doing these dev diaries, this is all stuff we've seen before, but they are worth reading through if you're needing a bit of a refresher and a reminder. But also there's into a flavor about the Netherlands that came out today, and I'm a little late to it because of the whole AAR thing. I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna do this video about the Netherlands tomorrow, so stick around, subscribe to the channel, and I'll get to that tomorrow. But of course, we have a few dev comments to read through, starting with this one. Can you make it so that the decline of empire disaster also applies to non-empire tier great powers? I would very much be fine with it being great power limited rather than empire rank limited. Potentially maybe, but as we've done with other previous features, we prefer to have more experimental content be contained, so if you think it works well, we can later expand and keep building upon it, which is also an entirely fair perspective to take. I'm totally fine with that as well. The decline of empire should really be a situation. It happens slowly, hiding bad outcomes behind good short-term rewards, building up corruption slowly in exchange for money or favors with the estates that even the player may be tempted to take, despite knowing that it furthers their downfall. As the situation deepens, other nations should be able to be a part of it, taking advantage of their decline to snag concessions, etc., etc. I mean, it's cool. Like, yeah, I feel like situations are multi-country disasters, or multi-country situations, and disasters are more single-country, so I guess it kind of makes sense if you want to say, other nations be a part of it, taking advantage of decline to snag concessions, sure, but I feel like that can also be a part of a disaster. Your country is going through a disaster and giving CBs to other nations that have, their culture in your country. That seems reasonable to me. I think I do still prefer it to be a disaster rather than a situation in this case. Pavi saying here, you may have noticed that we've built up situations upon a kind of specific historical events, and we've left the generic type of content for other types of assets, such as disasters. Creating generic situations may be a land to explore after the release of the game. I'm sure that's going to happen for sure, but it's not something we were aiming at in the release version. Also, setting the expectations correctly about what we have and what we don't have on the 4th of November, which is in fair. That's fair. It's always fair. I hope it won't be nerfed in the first patch to basically non-existence because of some disgruntled players. I mean, sure, fair enough. In general terms, they're trying to balance the content towards the objective of it being fun and engaging while not being annoying to play with. Entirely fair there as well. Can the disasters occur simultaneously? No, they can't happen at the same time or at the same time as a civil war, as the combination could be extremely punishing for the player. Also make wonky combined effects. I mean, on the one hand, like, this part, sure. On the other hand, like, having a country take disaster after disaster all at the same time, I don't know. I feel like as long as there's... It feels like that maybe should be possible. I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one. Because this seems like it would be more authentic, but I definitely see the argument of, look, that's a bit too much, brother. Having them one after the other is also pretty punishing, to be fair. Finally, I hope there are even more disasters, especially in the first half of the date range, where a majority of the playtime will be. So there are 33 disasters in, I think this is supposed to be EU5. 33 disasters in EU5, approximately a third are generic, the rest are tied to countries, IOs, government types, etc. The biggest divergence with EU4 is that they haven't ported the 15 estate-related disasters, because that feature is now mostly handled by the new estate and civil war systems. Alright, fair enough. I'm okay with this situation. Yeah, it is fine by me. I am looking forward to suffering. And I'm sure I will be experiencing all of these in my Wales game. Like I said, I've been working on the next video. I'm 1,200 words in, and just for context, the other ones have been like 6,000 to 7,000 words each. So we're getting there. That won't be the next video on my channel because the Netherlands Tinto flavor is coming out. I'm going to do that video tomorrow. But subscribe if you want to see those. And yeah, support the channel by buying the game through my affiliate link if you like, if you want to. No pressure. I'm going to be going now. Bye.